this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the keyboard that I've been waiting for. The Razer DeathStalker V2 Pro TKL. This is the Tenkeyless version of the DeathStalker V2 Pro, the flagship of Razer's keyboard lineup, and a very nice looking device for a number of different reasons. Now, this is a video to talk to you about the highlights of the TKL version of the DeathStalker V2 Pro and why it's awesome. And as you can see from multiple different angles, it's interesting and visually appealing, and it's also very compact. And that's the reason why I want to talk to you about why I like this keyboard and why I said it's the one I've been waiting for, because it's comparable with the Logitech G915 TKL, which you can see here. I'm going to do a video in the near future to compare those two, so subscribe if you aren't already to see that and find out more about what the differences are between them. But in this video, I'm going to be unboxing and talking about the various different features of the DeathStalker V2 Pro TKL and why it's nice, and showing the highlights of it. Now, there are some slightly different specs between this and the full-size version. The TKL one, for example, gets a little bit more battery life. The full-size V2 Pro gets 40 hours or 10 days based on 4 hours of use per day. And the TKL can get up to 50 hours or 12 days based on 4 hours. So a little bit more battery life because it has less keys. And that's because you have per key RGB illumination, but you also have optical switches. So every key on the keyboard has an optical light beam, which needs to be present in order to register the clicks of your presses, and therefore it requires more power for each of the keys, and that's why the full-size keyboard doesn't last as long as the TKL. So that's an interesting point to start with. Obviously, the TKL gives you a smaller form factor keyboard, which means it takes up less space on your desk. Now, included in the box, you get obviously the keyboard, a USB-C, detachable USB-C cable, and this little extender dongle, which is basically allows you to put the dongle from the keyboard, which I'll show you in a second, into that and put it closer to your desk, and I'll show you the process for that in a minute. So that means you basically have the cable within reach, and it also means that you can get the signal closer if you want to. I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. But as you can see, when it comes out of the box, it also has quite a large backside. So there's a bit of a lump where the battery sits. Obviously, this is necessary to install a battery which is going to give you longevity in terms of the battery life and ensuring that it runs nicely for up to 50 hours potentially. Inside here, you'll find the dongle itself, a 2.4 gigahertz dongle, and you also see it has adjustable feet as well, so you can adjust the height of it. And there's a little dock for there. Now, one of the things I will say is I don't like that dock very much. It's a little bit fiddly and flimsy and feels a bit cheap, but that's one small point of a pretty awesome keyboard otherwise. Now, as you can see, that dongle fits nicely into the extender, and then you can use the USB-C cable. So you plug the USB-A end of that into your PC, and then the USB-C bit can either plug into the keyboard to charge it up or into this extender dongle so you can put that close to your desk. That's rubberized on the underside so it won't slip around. It gives you easier access to be able to access that cable if you need to charge it, if you need to suddenly plug it in to charge it. So that is a convenient thing really that you'll see a lot of. Fairly straightforward and simple. Also, obviously, that means you're taking up less ports on your PC because you don't have to plug in both the cable and the dongle. So if you have limited number of USB ports, then that's worth bearing in mind. So something simple like that. Now, there are a lot of different things about this keyboard that make it appealing, and it is very nice for a number of different reasons. It's obviously quite expensive. It comes in at around £219, $219 around there, so pretty expensive. Cheaper than the full-size version though, which is about $250. On the back of it, you'll see that there is a switch to go between 2.4 gigahertz and Bluetooth 5.0, and I'll show you in a second, but there's 3 different profile buttons for Bluetooth, so you can actually pair it up with 3 different devices and then just press a button to click and switch between those, which is pretty nice. As you see, it has per key RGB illumination, and it has durable ABS plastic keycaps with a low profile design. Here you can see it alongside the full-size version. I've done a video separately on that. I'll link to in the description if you want to find out more about it. But one of the things you will notice from these various shots is that there's laser etching on the keycaps, which means the RGB lighting shines through really nicely, and you can see the lettering on both the main bit of the key and also the secondary layer. So for example, the $sign, the percentage sign, each bit has been carefully laser etched so you can see it really clearly. I'm going to do a sound test at the end of this video and a separate video with the key switch sounds if you want to hear that, so I'll link to those in the description if you just want to hear the keyboard and not me waffling over the top. Now, low profile ABS plastic with a durable layer on top of it, basically designed not to pick up fingerprint marks and such. I think it does, though, a little tiny bit. From my fingers, a little bit of oil is on the keycaps now. And I will say that I found that the top plate also picks up a lot of finger oil as well. So if you're touching that regularly, you will find it does get a little bit marred. It's easy enough to clean up, but it's worth bearing in mind. Now, as I said, this uses optical switches. So as you can see here, we have the linear optical switches in the low profile design. This is the red linear ones. So I will leave all the specs in the description, but these give you a smooth and silent feedback with 45 grams of actuation force, 1.2 millimeter actuation point, and up to 70 million clicks in terms of how long they'll last. You can see that low profile design as well, so it sits really low to the desk, and this is one of the reasons I really like this keyboard alongside the Logitech G915 TKL. I've tested a lot of keyboards, and I personally find that a low profile fit on a desk is really nice because it means that your wrists aren't raised, and when you're typing it just leads to a much more comfortable experience and a really nice setup there. At the back you can see that switch to go between Bluetooth and 2.4 gigahertz. Now, a lot of keyboards have a big difference in battery life on those. This one doesn't seem to. It's worth noting that Razer says that you get up to 50 hours with 50% keyboard brightness, but if you turn the brightness all the way down and basically have the RGB off, you can get up to 200 hours. That's not something I was able to test, but what I can say is I wasn't plugging it in really regularly, so that's certainly a bonus. See, the RGB lighting is very nice from various different angles, as I said already, and I also found that this is a very comfortable keyboard to type on, and I certainly think it's a very good premium finish and a good build quality. I like a lot of the things about this. You will notice that some of the keys aren't present because of the TKL, for example. You'll see that you have the print screen is buried in the insert button, so you have to press function in order to take print screen, scroll lock and pause. You can also see on F10 that there's a gaming mode button, so press function and F10 and you can turn off the Windows key so you don't accidentally open Windows start menu when you're playing games. F9 has a macro record button on the fly macros, and one of the things that I do like as well is you can press the function key and the end button, and then the 4 little LED indicators below there will give you a battery status indicator, with each light representing 25% of the full battery life. So you can get a little notification basically on the fly with ease to find out how much battery you've got, so you don't end up playing a game and then finding your keyboard's run out of battery halfway through. So it's pretty nice. Just press function key and the end button to see that. So there's a lot of different programmability there. And you also have more within Razer's Synapse software, and you can use Hypershift too. In terms of the typing and gaming experience, obviously this is a great keyboard. With those optical switches, you get a really fast and accurate response out of them. I've already mentioned that the low profile design makes them comfortable to type on, but also with a really fast actuation at 1.2 mil, it's actuating really quickly with just a very light touch. Those optical light beams also mean that you have an accurate representation of your clicks as well, so there's no problem there in terms of tracing it. I do find a bit of a difference between this and the G915 in terms of the typing experience and some of the accuracy, but it's very comfortable, quiet, and there's very minimal wobble in the keycaps. As you've seen from some of the shots, they're nicely stabilised in the important places, and so that's really important, and a very, very premium feel there, and I really like this keyboard for that reason and a lot of others. Here we are within Razer's Synapse software, and I'll give you a quick overview of what you can do here. You can see the DeathStalker V2 Pro here. I mentioned earlier on that you can press the function key and F10 to activate gaming mode, and you'll see that you can turn that on as default as always, or you can enable it in game. And you can also set it to disable the Windows key, disable menu key, disable Alt F4 and Alt Tab. So if you want to do that, you can check in on those things and set that up, which is obviously beneficial if you want to avoid any problems while you're playing, which is pretty nice. You also have the ability to customize a lot of the keys, and one of the things that's worth bearing in mind here is the Razer Hypershift functionality. So Hypershift basically allows you to assign a key. Let's say caps lock, if you want to set that as the Hypershift button. You could click to save that. So then when you press the Hypershift, that will open up the secondary layer of actions. Now, if you don't know already, Hypershift basically allows you to assign extra key presses to other keys. So this means that you can change the keyboard layout so that you can have a secondary layer of actions in there. so that when Hypershift is activated, you could actually set up completely different thing, whether that's a macro or a different key press or something else. This would mean that when you're pressing and holding the caps lock, if we've assigned that as the Hypershift button, then the other buttons become something else. This is essentially similar to what you do with the function key and pressing the print screen button, for example, but it means that you can assign your own software level within Synapse. This is really useful on something small like this, on a TKL keyboard where you've lost a numpad and you don't have any dedicated macro keys. It means you can set up and program a lot of other things in here with relative ease. You'll see there's lots of different choices here, so I'm not going to go into a lot of different depth on it, but you can basically go through all sorts of things from setting it to launch a program, having a Windows shortcut set up on a Hypershift, and other things. So just a couple of key presses, but this is a really cool feature of this keyboard and other Razer devices, basically be able to switch between standard layout and then Hypershift layout with those secondary actions. Really nice. In here, in the lighting section, you'll see as standard, it's set to 50%. As I said, that's what the Razer says about the amount of battery you can get out of it. If you put it down to 0, obviously you'll get longer. If you put it up to maximum, you'll go a lot less. You can adjust the various different effects in here. So you see you have some standard quick effects, which just apply to the keyboard itself in various different ways. And you have different lighting effects in there, or you can go into Studio and program a lot more. The RGB lighting is actually really good on this. In past Razer keyboards that I've used, I've found that they're a bit underwhelming because the etching isn't quite as nice. That's usually a problem with PBT, because this is ABS, actually shines through quite well and you get some really nice effects out of it with relative ease. And this is nice that you have the ability to customize it. Obviously something with reactive, for example. So when you're pressing the keys, the keyboard then reacts to your key presses. And you can also customize it for rippling effects. So it ripples across the keyboard. Could be distracting, but you can see that you can also change the various different colors of it. So it might be that you choose to have it as that classic Razer green, or you might go through various different other effects in there. You can also set it to dim the lighting and have a power saving mode. You'll see that device will turn off after 15 minutes of inactivity. Bit weird that you can't go lower than that really, because that's quite a long time if you've walked away from your keyboard to carry on there. But you can set it so it will dim after 2 minutes. So at least if you're not touching and using it, it will go into a lower state of lighting, which will then save some power. This might change in future, obviously. Synapse could get updated, but at the current point, this is what it's like. So overall, a really nice keyboard, really nice premium finish, good lighting, really comfortable to type on, great gaming experience from my point of view, and one of the best TKLs that I've tried. And you're paying a big premium for it, but you are getting optical keys with really good response and a very nice premium design that includes a number of nice things about it. It's worth quickly mentioning, as I've not said already, that you can see in here that the media wheel works as volume up and volume down when you roll it up and down, but you can also push it in to mute it. And the playback button next to that, press that once to play, press it again to pause, double tap it and it'll skip onto the next track if you're on Spotify, for example, or triple tap it and it'll rewind. So you have lots of functions in just those two buttons there, so that's really nice. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Stick around now to hear the sound test. Thanks very much for watching. Check out all the links and everything else in the description to find out more about it and to purchase.